So that's only a very weak rendition of what it sounded like when I deployed this thing Sunday morning. Right now it's Wednesday evening, the 30th of September 2015. So about 4 days ago. I had to deploy this thing because it had expired about a year and a half ago. It's the Viking 4-man Liferaft, RescYou. And I called the gal at Viking to resurface it, and she said it really wasn't a wise thing for me to do, but I couldn't help it because I remember reading a study years ago where like 30 or 40 people in New Zealand went to a beach and they all deployed their life rafts, like 30 or 40 life rafts, and like a third of them filled up and held their air. Another third of them filled up but then deflated, like within a day. And the other third never even filled up with air. Maybe that was old study, but I didn't have a whole lot of optimism as to the effectiveness of a life raft. However, after deploying this thing a year and a half after expiry and observing it over the last few days, I have a newfound respect for a life raft like that. And so since it's hopefully I'll never get to deploy one in my life, and you will never deploy one in your life. But since I did go through the exercise that may have cost me a couple $1,000s, I'll give you a little tour of this little life raft. So after that initial blast, which is really kind of scary, this thing just exploded into what it looks like now in like 2 or 3 seconds. And a lot of hissing followed that blast. And I walked around, and I noticed that hissing came from this upper valve here, right here. And, I put this little red thing's stopper. They kind of stopped it, but it took me a couple minutes to find this thing, and putting my finger over it stopped it. So these guys here, I guess it's just a good idea. That's probably the first thing you do, is after you deploy it, you put these red things in and just kind of keep it clean, because these are just a high pressure valve. It's never going to have excess pressure again. From that point on, there's a little pump in this bag here, like a little utility bag, or not utility, there's good stuff in there. I can read it to you in a bit, but there's a pump to fill these little valves here that go all the way around. That's an air valve, so you have insulation on the floor. Some more fill valves here. So this guy here has been deployed for 3 days, like 3.5 days now, and it was only now do I feel, the lowest one's got the most pressure in it. The upper ones are kind of weak, and the top is starting to sag. So no big deal to fill this. He's kind of lasted better than I would have thought. So tied to the boat is your painter line, which is this guy here, and he's 10 meters long, and he basically, this is what you pull to deploy this thing, and he's tied to this canister, which has this pressure line going up into here, which looks like it fills everything. They must have some other internal valves or something for one line to fill all these, because they have a number of different fill valves inside of here. 1, 2, 3. No, it looks like they just have 3 on here. I wouldn't count that one because that's just insulation for the bottom. So on one side there is this little, it's kind of like a bilge. This is a direct connect to the water down below. So you can use this thing when you bail water out. They have a sponge in that packet, but you can bail water out and pour it down there, and it goes out instead of having to reach outside maybe if it's raining. And if it is raining, on the other side, they have a little bag here with a tube. And that tube, look on the other side, is connected to this little thing here with a hole in it to collect rainwater. I don't think they're going to get a whole lot of rainwater here, but if it is raining, then I would sit on this side of the raft so that you'd be to windward, put the weight on to windward so you get a bit more. And maybe if you pull down on this, maybe even let some air out of the top if you could. But you play around. If you have time to play around, which you would, of course, you could get some water is better than no water. So what kind of stuff is in this equipment pack? It's covered by a ladder that you can use to help you get on that side into the boat. And then on this side of the boat, there's this kind of another little bladder to help, kind of like a step to get into the boat. But on there's a ring you can toss to somebody with a line to go and pull them back into the boat. There's on this little orange thing here, there's a sea anchor you can use to help orient the raft and slow down. I'll read to you I'm not going to open that little sack because it's all, it's like a vacuum sealed bag. So it's, I can see some water in there. But what else does it say it has in there? This didn't seem like bad stuff. I mean, this thing would keep you alive as is for a couple days. This came in a valise, and that valise, most of the time you see them, they're in these like fiberglass containers. And if I had used a fiberglass container, that gal asked me that when I called Viking. She was worried that I would have blown because I blew this off in a room in this house. And she said if I had had the fiberglass container, I would have blown a hole in the wall. So that thing has hand flares, flash batteries, a whistle, spare batteries, bulbs, buoyant safety knife. Actually, that safety knife is right there. So you can cut yourself right there. You can cut the painter tied to the boat if the boat's on fire or if it's sinking before it pulls you under. There is a paddle in there so you can, I guess, move somewhere. A bellow, sea anchor, repair kit, bailer, parachute light, seasickness tablets, rescue quoit, whatever, rescue quoit. Oh, I'll bet you that's the rescue quoit. That little round thing that you can toss to somebody. And there is sponge, signaling mirror, first aid kit, survival manual, life-saving signals, description, thermal protection aids, fishing tackle, safety tin opener, water bags, food ration, plastic bag, hand flares, radar reflector. I was reading too, because Viking sells these things all over the world, and it's built to some kind of ISO standard. And it was hard for me to figure out what's in that without opening it up, because they sell this in some parts of the world that has different contents than in other parts of the world. So who knows what you're really going to get until you probably open it up. They have these little markings all over, so it's not in any language to tell you what to do. How to fill it with air and stuff like that. So immediately upon deployment, this light on top was on. I left it on. It lasted maybe 20 hours. It didn't last 24 hours. But I'm not sure if that really matters, because this thing's only designed to basically keep you alive for the span of an EPIRB. And the EPIRB's, that's got a 48-hour lifespan. Beyond that, you're really praying. And you really got to make sure your ditch bag has more life-sustaining stuff. This light on the inside was also on, but there's a way to turn it off. I turned it off, and it still works fine. This one looked more like an LED, and the top one looked more like incandescent, so it's kind of odd the way they set that up. But, doesn't really matter, because, my EPIRB now, the new one, has a flashing light anyway. So not only do you get the signal for 48 hours or so, but you also get the flashing light. So it kind of negates the need for that one. Another thing worth noting is all the way around on the inside and the outside are these lifelines. There's a lifeline all the way around both sides. So it's worth having some string, and if you got room to haul, you can grab water jugs, jerry cans, or dry bags. You can tie them to the outside at the worst, and they can just hang on and come along for the ride with you. So, that's kind of helpful. All right, so that's a short tour of the Viking RescYou LifeRaft. Hopefully that's the first and last time I will ever deploy anything like this, and hopefully you will never have to deploy anything like this. I would say it's kind of like a tent. You get a 4-man tent. It's not really good for 4 people, maybe 2 or 3. Same deal with this. This is plenty fine for 2, maybe even 3 people. And, as long as you're not too huge. But I'm not sure about 4. But for a 2-man life raft, this 4 is perfect. All right, so that's about it. Keep feeling good, and over and out.